Hello everyone, it's Angie here at Beads and Plenty More. Today I thought I'd show you this bracelet done with these flower beads and macrame knots, and it's got a magnetic clasp on it. So I'm using the S-Salon cord here. I did do one that was larger, using larger beads, and I used the 1mm Chinese knotting cord, and it works out in a similar fashion. And I had to use a slightly larger magnetic clasp as well. So this is the Brazilian knotting cord here, and what I'm going to do is I've cut 3 pieces that are 75 centimeters long. I'll post a full supply list at the end of this video that you can screenshot if you want to go shopping. But in the meantime, we'll talk about the various supplies here. So I'm just going to use an easy eye needle here. Pull it down to the middle of the one cord here. Match my ends up. And I'm just going to thread my beads on, because I need them threaded down the middle cords of my macrame. So I found these are 6x8mm beads, and they're just a little oval. They had really large holes, so I was able to get the thread through them double. If you're using a bead that has a smaller hole and you can't get the thread through double, don't worry about it. Just go ahead and use it, and use just a single thread. It'll still work. Just move them down a bit here. And I've got 13 of them here. That seemed to work to create a bracelet that made almost 7 inches. It's not quite 7 inches. Of course, you can adjust for size. So I've got all the beads threaded on here. And I need to secure this so that they're secure enough that I can work and create my knots. I thought I'd use my bead loom, multitask my bead loom a bit. If you don't have a bead loom, you could just use like a clipboard, or even stretch them over a shoebox or something of that nature. You just need something secure enough that it will hold your threads tight. So I've got the 2 other threads here, the 2 other pieces that are 75 centimeters long. I'm just going to tie an overhand knot with all of my pieces here. And we'll hook the middle ones. One advantage of using the bead loom is I can actually hook them where I need them. So we'll just hook everything, bring that one over to the other side. And I'm just going to stretch it across the bead loom. So these center ones, will maybe bring them together so they sit together. And I need my beads to be accessible, so we'll move them into the center of the cording. And then I need these 2 threads to be accessible so that I can use them. And I'm just going to tie the other end of my center threads around here. Now you may have noticed I left the needle on. If I decide afterwards that I need to add 1 more bead, I have the option of doing that, because the needle's still attached, and I'll cut it off later. So I got nice tight tension there, and then we're going to tie macrame knots. So I'll move that into the camera range. So I am going to bring my left cord across over my center cords, and it needs to come under the other outside cord. The other outside cord is going to come around behind and through my loop. So that's the first part of the knot. So we'll pull that nice and tight. And the second part of the knot, I'm going to come underneath with my left cord. So it's exactly the opposite of what I did last time. Underneath. This one needs to go over top of the outside cord. And then this cord is going to come over top and through. And that's 1 full knot complete. So I'm going to do that 1 more time. I'm going to come left cord across. And then the right cord or left cord underneath, and right cord on top. So once I've got 2 knots, I can slide one of my beads up, and I'm just going to do that same knot on the other side. I found that it was nicer to put 2 knots in between, so I'm going to do 1 more full knot here. So I'm going to continue on with my beads and putting the knots in between, and I'll show you how to put the clasp on at the other end. Okay, so here I am at the other end here. I've done my 2 last knots. And I did end up taking the end off here and actually adding 1 more bead because I found that it was a bit short in comparison to my other sample. So just my green bracelet was that little bit longer. So I'm just going to pull this off the loom here. And as far as the ends go, I have a magnetic clasp that has a 3mm inner diameter, and I'm putting the 4 strands into it. You have to figure out how many strands you're putting into it, and you have to think about how big those strands are. When I did this one, I actually needed one with a 4mm inner diameter because the thread was just that little bit thicker. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to cut it right where I want to have it. Now I have an advantage here because this cord does stick together. If you are working with a cord that doesn't stick as well as that, you may actually want to glue it in 2 stages. You may want to glue your cords together first and then go back and actually glue it into the clasp after. So same deal on this side. I'm going to cut fairly close. And there's my needle, so I can reuse that on the next project. So now, if I just take some E6000 glue, and I'm just gonna basically just coat the little ends in glue. Let's see if I can get the glue out here. I think I might have a tube that's older. There we go. Actually, I might just shoot some into the clasp as well. Just add all the ends into the clasp. Same deal on this side. So then it's usually just a good idea to let that sit and dry for a while. And that's bracelet finished. Hope you enjoyed that. Have a good day.